Hello and welcome once again to the Waters and Stanton video channel. My name is Peter Waters and my call sign is Golf 3 Oscar Juliet Victor. I'm going to talk about some propagation mysteries on the HF bands. Mysteries that really can't be explained using theory that we understand, theory that we read in the textbooks. You know, if you're new to ham radio, you've probably read the textbooks, and if you're old, you've probably read the textbooks, and you understand propagation. You understand that low-angle radiation is better for DX than high-angle radiation. You understand how the signals are reflected or refracted from the ionosphere or through the ionosphere, and how signals propagated from one point in the world to the other, and the signal will go up and it will be reflected by the ionosphere and back down again, and very often it'll be reflected back up again and back down again. So we get multi-hop, and that's really how some of the DXs work. You know, if you look at the textbooks, it all looks very clean, doesn't it? You know what angle the signal is going to leave your antenna. If it's a vertical, it's going to be low angle radiation. You're not quite sure what angle, probably around about 10 or 15 degrees. You're not sure what the angle of radiation is from your horizontal antenna. You can look it up in the textbook. If it's a dipole, you know what the angle is because you can measure the height of the dipole above the ground and then look up in the textbook and you see what the angle is. It's probably 20, 25 degrees, depends how high the dipole is. If you're a lucky fellow with a big mast, you may have your dipole up at 60 or 70 feet. Maybe 20 metres or even higher. You may have a Yagi. Although a Yagi, the angle of radiation from a Yagi is identical to that from a dipole in terms of its lowest angle. So we do know, or we do expect, certain results from certain antennas, but it doesn't always work out that way. You know, you can model an antenna, but what you can't do is you can't take into account what's all around it. If you're in a typical location where you're surrounded by houses, all those houses are laced with wiring, mains wiring, all sorts of wiring, TV wiring, wiring all over the place, a wire mesh. Every house surrounded your garden or your location is a mesh of wire. That quite clearly is going to affect the radiation pattern in your antenna. Likewise, the ground conditions. Is it concrete? Is there a road across the way? Solid concrete, etc. So, although you can model an antenna, it only tells you what it might do in a perfect world with a certain ground condition. It doesn't take into account all the bits and pieces around it. Anyway, let's talk about some unexpected events. You know, about a year ago, I had regular contacts with Brian, ZL3 X-Ray Delta Juliet. Brian was a G station, moved out to New Zealand about 12 or 13 years ago. And he is in a particular location in the southern island of New Zealand where he gets very good results. And I was able to work Brian regularly on 20 metres, on 40 metres, and I think we migrated to 15 metres once, but basically I used to work him in the mornings on 20 metres and 40 metres. That was his night time. The signals were very consistent. I could almost guarantee that if Brian was on the air, I'd work him. Now you may think, okay, well, that's the conditions. But the strange thing is I was using a half-size G5 RV at 28 feet, fed with RG58 coax. So it wasn't the best antenna. And it certainly didn't have low-angle radiation. So how was my signal propagating to New Zealand on a regular basis on both 40 and 20 metres with very good signal strengths? And likewise, good signal strength from Brian. It was almost guaranteed. We think that it's probably caudal hop, where the signal gets trapped in the ionosphere and then pops out the other end. It also coincided with the grey line, where it's either dusk or dawn at one location and vice versa at the other location. That also gives good results. But it's difficult to understand why those results were so consistent with an antenna which clearly didn't have much low angle radiation. Also, we were cross polarised. Not that that matters on the HF bands. So Brian was vertically polarised. He tried a horizontal antenna from time to time, but he was convinced and proved that a vertical antenna for him was the best option. I found exactly the opposite. I could not get on with a vertical antenna. I could hear him, but it was very difficult to work him. As soon as I went to the horizontal antenna, then signals improved. Noise went down, of course, but signals improved as well. So, a bit of a mystery, really, isn't it? Not fully explained, but very pleasant nevertheless. I was messing about with antennas very recently, actually, and I was using my little QMX QRP transceiver, 5 watts. I put it in the car, and I put a Ampro antenna on the top of the car in a mag mount, just a single mag mount, not the best thing, just a single mag mount. But anyway, it worked okay. I got a reasonable VSWR. And I put out CQ using reverse beacon. And I got some very good results. I put them up on the screen now. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Quite good results. You'll see one particular result, which is well over 2,000 kilometres, well into eastern Russia, well into Asia, of course. And I didn't quite explain the propagation there because listed on the bands there was no DX, but nevertheless the reverse beacon did show a bit of DX. Now, I'm going to tell you another mystery which relates to or is connected with reverse beacon. Last year, I went on 20 metres, about this time of the year actually. I went on 20 metres in the evening when it was just getting dark, or was dark actually. The band was pretty dead. And I put out CQ calls and I looked on reverse beacon, and I was getting into the States quite easily, getting into areas of the Caribbean, but no takers. Well, over the course of about 2 or 3 months, I repeated this almost on a daily basis in the evening when the band was dead and it was dark. And quite often I got some surprises. I got quite a few calls from the Caribbean with some pretty rare stations actually. And the band was dead. These were one-off stations that called me, tuning up and down the band was dead. But I put out a CQ call and I got a reply. I got some from the west coast of America, but it's more the Caribbean I got replies from. And then one evening, the band again was dead. And I put out a call, nothing came back, but I was quite surprised to see a report from Australia. And I put out another call, and again the Australia report was there, but the band was dead, and then nothing. I put out further calls and there was nothing. The propagation was not there. And I did that several times, and then one evening when I put out a call again on a dead band, all of a sudden up came a VK5 Australia on a band that was dead. And we had a QSO for about 10 or 15 minutes, about S7 each way, no QSB whatsoever. And in fact, when he first called me, I thought, am I hearing things? Because the band's dead. And I then put out further CQs, nothing. I then checked reverse beacon, no propagation to Australia at all. So it seems that 5 or 10 minute slot worked between myself and this VK5, but there was no general propagation to Australia. It was a one-off. Well, I recently got an email from Brian, ZL3XDJ, and he said, Peter, I'm absolutely amazed. He said, I've been on 20 metres. The band was absolutely dead. It was in the evening, so it was morning our time. He said the band was absolutely dead, no stations at all. And I put out a call, and I got a reply from SM6GFR. I think his name's Staffan. And he said the signal strength was phenomenal. He said it was S9 plus 20 SSB. He said we chatted for about an hour. There was no other stations I could hear on the band. He said it was like our antennas were connected to each other, no QSB at all. He said eventually we finished the QSO. He said, and I tuned across 20 metres and I could not hear another station. Now, was that a one-off? conditions between SM6GFR and ZL3XDJ, why were there no other stations around? It doesn't actually stack up, does it? And these odd things happen occasionally. Not all the time, but occasionally. Now, I'm pretty sure that you've got stories of a similar nature, and if you want to relate those, just make it brief, but put a note under this video of your experiences on HF propagation. But I have quite enjoyed messing about on what appear to be dead bands, putting out calls and seeing what I get on reverse beacon network. The reverse beacon network is quite valuable because it's an immediate response. It's an immediate response with realistic powers, and it does indicate sometimes that there is propagation when you don't expect it. But sometimes the reverse happens. Sometimes there doesn't appear to be any propagation, and then up will pop a station. And when these stations pop up, they're there for 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes good strength. But you think, why am I in contact with this guy and there's no other stations on the band? Perhaps we should do a bit more experimentation. Perhaps if you have got nothing better to do, or there's nothing decent on television or so forth, try putting out a call on a dead band when the band appears to be closed, and then check reverse beacon. You don't need to do it on CW because reverse beacon works on CW. But if you're not a CW operator, it doesn't matter. You can program CW into your transceiver. Instead of calling CQ, just put out a test call, test, followed by your call sign a couple of times, and then check the reverse beacon network. You don't want to call CQ because you might get a reply and you can't work the station. But anyway, it's a way of experimenting. And I think perhaps we should do a bit more experimentation because that's what amateur radio was originally all about. And it's still nice to know that there are things we can do, some experiments we can do. It doesn't cost us much apart from time, and we get a few surprises. Now, it's no good going on a couple of nights and thinking, oh, it's not working for me. You've got to do it repetitively. You've got to do it night in, night out, just for 5 or 10 minutes at the same sort of time, and just see what happens. Here we are. The mysteries of ham radio HF propagation. Perhaps there's still some discoveries that we can make. Here we are. In the meantime, thanks for your support on this channel. It's much appreciated. Thank you for your support the shop and on the website. Don't forget, we've got a wide range of products. And if you've got any queries, just give us a call and we'll be happy to sort of guide you through and point you in the right direction. And if you want to browse for accessories, look on our website. Mainline products, of course, we've got them. And don't forget, we will match prices as well, do some great deals. And of course, we do some great second-hand deals as well. So there we are. In the meantime, you enjoy your ham radio, you take care. Look forward to seeing you, as usual, in the next video. Bye for now.